Okay, wonderful. And we're back for another episode of the Domus Search Leadership Podcast. Domus Search is an executive search business working with medical technology, biotech, pharma, and general healthcare industry really across Europe. And I'm delighted today to be joined by Anish Suri, who's the CEO and founder, a fascinating gentleman, CEO and founder of Bipolar Buddy. Bipolar Buddy was founded in 2021, and their mission is to help patients with bipolar disorder achieve sustained remission using their platform, which incorporates AI and machine learning as well. It's a really fascinating topic, and it bridges into digital therapeutics and healthcare and many other areas. And without spoiling it too much, I'd love to welcome my guest, Anish. Perhaps you could give us a bit of an intro as well into you and the business. Anish, welcome.
Hey, yeah, thank you so much. So my name's Anish Suri, of course, as you said. I'm the founder and CEO of Bipolar Buddy, and we also have an app called Mood Mentor, which is on the App Store now, and that's an app for people with general mood swings, so healthy people. But we also obviously have the Bipolar Buddy, which is for people with bipolar disorder and unipolar depression, and that's currently going through our process of regulatory approval, and hopefully that'll be ready in a couple of years, 2 or 3 years.
Wow, fantastic. So loads going on, and lots for us to unpack and talk about as well. And we spoke a little while ago, Anish, and you're based in London now, but very international, as you can probably tell from your accent. You've spent time overseas or in international schools as well. As I'm sharing with a really wide audience here as well, most of my audience now are within the healthcare industries as well. But would you mind giving us a bit of a backstory into your career and evolution to the point at which you've set up Bipolar Buddy as well and Mood Mentor?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just on my background, I'm from India originally, but I grew up in Singapore mainly for 10 years. And I went to international school there, which explains the accent. But I'm now have a British passport, and I'm here in the UK for the time being. My professional experience, I've done a few different internships. I've worked with CapGemini Invent. I've worked with Cryptowerk Corp. I've worked with Skyfive and Zopa AI. However, I think nothing means more to me than what I've created now with Bipolar Buddy. So I was actually, my career evolved in this way when I was in university, and in my second year at the University of Edinburgh, I had a manic episode when I traveled to New York after a couple of days in London, and I ended up there and I was just not really coherent on myself. So I actually checked myself into hospital with the help of my family for 5 days, and that's when I was first diagnosed with bipolar. So beyond being diagnosed with bipolar, I came back to the UK, took a couple months, and decided to take a year off from university, which is where I started doing my internships with CapGemini Invent and with Cryptowerk Corp the year after. But had a great experience, realized I had a love and passion for tech, social impact, and making a difference generally. Graduated from university, worked at Skyfive for a bit, honed in on my skills, and just decided I was ready to take the leap and started Bipolar Buddy.
Fantastic. Do you think you always had that seed in you as well, Anish, of setting up on your own and making a difference with your own business?
Yeah, I was also the founder and president of a society at university dedicated to diversity and inclusion, Third Culture Society. That was a lot of fun. I had a really good experience. And I was also raised by an entrepreneur. My mom's an entrepreneur, so she definitely had a big part in my more risky endeavors and taking on a risk like this.
So important, isn't it? I speak to a lot of founders as well, as you can imagine, in the work that I do, and a lot of them, well, two main reasons: either solve a problem that they're having, whether it's something they can't get access to generally within healthcare, or through personal experience as well, or being around other entrepreneurial minds and action takers, where they feel they've got the room and the runway to give it a go. And yeah, it's so important at really all ages as well. Some people are only just in their 40s, 50s thinking, I've always wanted to do this. I'm now in the place where I can. So that's really exciting, and congratulations on there as well. Just for getting set up and going. I imagine it's been quite a quite a challenge as well, quite mentally taxing. I know what it's like setting up a business, but also ramping it up as well to commercial success as well. Do you put a lot of pressure on yourself? What have the challenges been and expectations of yourself, but also maybe from others who have perhaps invested, whether it's time or money, into your venture? How's it been? What have been the main challenges that you've found so far?
Yeah, definitely. I think the personal pressure that you put on yourself is definitely the biggest challenge that comes out. We were just talking about burnout a second ago, and definitely that holds true. I mean, I've experienced that a lot in university, but maybe less so now that I feel like I have a bit more balance in my life. I, kind of my recovery began at university, and since then I've had much more control. But the challenges of being an entrepreneur are different than anything else, where you feel kind of very lonely and isolated, and you have this big weight on your shoulders. It is a lot of pressure at the end of the day. It's a lot to deal with. So I think that's probably the most challenging thing that I've experienced. It does get easier kind of as you bring on a team, but you have to be mobile enough and as flexible enough and as adaptive to make sure that you're keeping everything running and keeping everything at a pace that will succeed, which is challenging. But I mean, so far over the last course of the last year and a half has been dedicated to development. And it's been a really interesting journey. It's really taken a lot of mastering the product and just making sure it's the best it can be. And now it's just about rolling it out and having people test it more and getting people to begin using it properly. So it's a pretty exciting journey. I think the expectations, the challenges that you have as an entrepreneur are definitely matched with an amazing experience and the potential to create a massive impact in what you're doing. So really, it is unparalleled. I love the experience, even though there's some difficult challenges. Yeah.
And for those that haven't, I mean, I've looked into the business in a bit more detail as well, and the demo and the pictures. I see that you've surrounded yourself with a really impressive team as well, whether that's sort of mentors, advisors as well. How important has that been to you in getting established and set up on those lonely days, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these team members have turned into really good friends. So it's been a really, really good experience so far. Really worked really closely with them. And there's a mix of kind of part-time and full-time employees of the company. But at the end of the day, I think when you're working on strategy, when you're working on different parts of the business, it's always a different face. It's grown to a scale now where we have about 7 people on board. But yeah, you definitely begin to get to know them really well. We have a CFO, we have a CMO, we have a CTO, we have a technical advisor, and we have 2 developers and a product manager. And yeah, it's just it's definitely a very good team. Really happy with it.
Does it play into the theory of you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with?
I hope so.
Those kind of those kind of positive influences.
Yeah, no, I definitely think you have to meet a certain standard when you have a standard that's being performed by those around you, and that's you kind of lift each other up, and it's definitely there's a hidden pressure. It's nothing too serious, but it definitely comes out in the quality of work.
So, were you the ideas guy, Anish, as well in the kind of founding of the business?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say off the back of that as well. Where did you find your inner circle, as it were? Your C-suite. Or was that through the VC, the What If Ventures, or was it through other networks?
No. So I actually I've met a lot of people since we started the company. It's been a bit of a journey. So I've worked with a lot of different people. And the people that have stuck around have been the ones that, so the CFO, for example, Connor, he was actually kind of working with me to do an investment readiness, getting me ready for the process of being investment ready for a few months, so for about 6 months. And then eventually he came on as CFO, which was a great transition. And he's become a really solid member of the team. We also, with the others that kind of came with the network that we brought together. I mean, people, so Connor knew a couple guys who had another startup, and then they've joined as well just recently. But then we also have people who've reached out with their own projects, like Taylor, who's our product manager, and also just she's done a really amazing job over the last couple of months. And then the technical team came from a technical advisor that he suggested this team in India. And it just grew out of kind of who knew who, obviously. And it's been a really good team so far.
Right. It's kind of a dream team, isn't it? And you never know where you could take that team to set up other organizations in the future once you've got that foundation.
Definitely, yeah.
No, that's really exciting. And having had a look over the last couple of years, I know digital therapeutics and digital platforms have been around for some time now, but they're really starting to take form over the last few years, particularly sort of during and post COVID as well, and that access to care, which was very limited in the early stages of the pandemic, which is now, it's almost now expected that there is a digital companion of some sort. How has it been for you I know you have a very unique selling point almost in what you're doing as well. How have you found sort of navigating the very busy digital economy now, really, of apps here, there, and everywhere for everything as well? How do you cut through and what access and how do you find your customers through all that noise? Maybe a few questions in one there. Sorry, Anish.
Yeah, I mean, I would start by saying within digital therapeutics, I think the product is the most important thing. So things like making sure we have an exceptional product, integrating wearables, integrating a software development keyboard so we can access more data, and we can improve upon the data that we're creating and create better predictions. These are all things that we're starting to work on now, and we're starting to put together in our new product, which we're building upon. But also, I think sorry, repeat the question.
That's all right. Yeah, so it's almost cutting through the noise of so many options. Let's say there's 20 competitors out there with a similar but not quite the same product as well. How do you get through, and how does one reach the audience to say this is the one you need? Is it through the GPs and clinicians, or is it through great marketing? How is it achieved in your view, and how are you getting the best results without giving away any trade secrets, of course?
Our focus right now is definitely just having great marketing. So we're building it up from the foundations and just starting from scratch recently. So we used to be very content heavy and very focused on our follower base and getting a lot of traction that way. And that definitely is something for us, but I think now we want to have a bit of a comprehensive PPC strategy where we are putting the right content out there, but we're making sure we're tailoring it to the exact target customers that we need to use it. Bipolar is a very specific thing. There's very influencers out there that we want to target as well. So we're trying out different things. We're still in the testing process of performing this. But I think in about 6 months, we'll be better positioned to answer that question with some successful results.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is it? Is it 5% of the world has suffers from a bipolar in some form? And over 1 million in the UK, was that right?
1.3.
Wow, yeah, big numbers, isn't it? But it's small enough maybe to carve out the niche and figure out where the discussion is happening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But maybe no, it's really, really interesting. And one of the questions that, given that you've been around tech as well and you're developing technology as well, in your opinion, Anish, as well, how does a market leader stay a market leader? You've found a place now within the market. I saw through the demo there that you're really in a unique position. Is it through people? Is it something else? How do you feel that you can stay a market leader now you are in so many ways?
I mean, I wouldn't say that we're a market leader yet. We've just got the app on the App Store, but absolutely, I mean, there's no competitors in our space. It's a very unique area. But really at the heart of it, I think the most important thing is having a unique product and being innovative, disruptive, and making an impact for people as well. An impact that the people can use and can benefit from and experience the benefits from. That's the most important thing to me, personally, as a user of my own product, someone who has bipolar disorder, someone who's recovering from the condition and the first few years of being diagnosed. It's a long journey and it's a lifelong problem that you have to master. So I think understanding the problem is one of the most important things as well, and understanding the solution that you're offering your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you touched on there with the wearable device as well, given that we're all wearing some sort of wearable, or at least with a phone that has the app, something that's really interesting that you mentioned in your product demo as well was around the mood tracking as well, and something I mentioned on one of the other apps that I use, where it asks you to check in with yourself almost, and I'm seeing that's quite a common theme at the minute, isn't it? Just that kind of reminder, or say, hey, how you feeling? I think that's quite important in your product development, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were positioned with a bit of a question of whether we're obviously tight on investments and we're trying to find a way to fundraise simultaneously and manage all of these different challenges. So crowdfunding is coming up in the future as well. But we had a question between whether we would integrate wearables or software development keyboard. And we decided to go with the software development keyboard because it would be a free option for users. And it means we're trying to make it as accessible as possible for as many people with bipolar or just generally with mood swings. I feel like it's almost a necessity to have kind of a tool which you can track all these things and understand yourself better. So yeah, we're trying to make it as accessible as possible.
Absolutely. So you're going to a funding round at the moment, is that right? And are you looking to raise?
Not yet. So in a few months, we're going to be looking. Right now, we're just preparing to go to the market. We're trying to spend the next few months targeting around 500 users so we can start getting some early traction, and eventually evolve that into maybe 2,000 with a clinical study as well. Right. But yeah, really the focus will probably be a crowdfunding round as part of our end-to-end customer strategy in about 3 months' time.
Wonderful. So I imagine you have some amazing case studies to follow the back of those trials.
Definitely. So I mean, they begin next year. So we're gonna have hopefully roughly 1,300 patients, both bipolar and unipolar depression. And we're going to make comparisons between people using the app and people not using the app and see if we can find that we're improving well-being, that we're improving satisfaction of the product, that they're having positive customer satisfaction. And mainly, I think the biggest thing at the end of the day is not remission, but understanding that we can actually benefit people full stop and make an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just a little snapshot on me as well. I turned 40 this year. 20 years ago, smartphones were only really just coming in. I mean, maybe not even, I can't even remember. But rewind the clock 32 years when I was 8. I had some breathing difficulties. Long story short, I've had asthma for 32 years now, always carrying the inhalers everywhere with me. Really frustrating, probably through my 20s when I was in my, what I would say maybe physical prime, being really held back through asthma, working very hard to stay on top of fitness and whatnot. But I found the advancement of the treatment of asthma or the management of symptoms was very poor. And it's only just starting to come through now as well. And, whenever I do my yearly checkup at the GP, I find that the innovation is quite slow. And although there's a lot more funding, I think, and a lot more awareness around asthma, I still think it's pretty poor as well. Is that the same with bipolar as well? And are we starting to see maybe an emergence, bringing it to the fore really in through organizations such as yours?
I think treatment of bipolar is still decades behind. There's not much out there for people with bipolar to manage the condition. I mean, I'm currently using medication that is, I think, 80 years old, and it's the most popular type of medication. And to be fair, it does a good job. And I think it does make life much easier to control, and all the symptoms of bipolar easier to manage. But realistically, I think there is a good emergence of new waves of technology which are coming out. I mean, I know there's something called Sana Health in the States. Most of the stuff is in the States from what I've seen. But there's an example is this company where if you're having a manic episode, you try on this piece of this virtual reality equipment, and it immediately calms you down and puts you to sleep. So there's lots of different tools, which I'm looking forward to trying out. But
yeah, absolutely. I guess you've got to immerse yourself in everything, haven't you, to try it out?
Yeah, exactly.
I was quite shocked that it was only maybe 5 years ago that I had the sort of skin tests, the skin prick test for allergies, thought for hay fever triggering, breathing. I thought to myself, couldn't have this been done 25 years ago, 30 years ago? And maybe I would have got a new mattress, would have stayed away from dust, maybe been aware of the kind of pollen that I'm around. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, to think that we're so behind, or something's got to be very extreme in order to get attention, to be looked at as well. And I guess if bipolar has been kept in the shadows and not treated broadly, then I guess the eyes are not on it really, and it's not getting maybe the investment or innovation that it deserves.
Absolutely, I think it's a global problem, but of course, solutions require a lot of work. Both investment and regulatory approval are big factors. So it's quite a challenging space to innovate. Definitely.
And just on as we start to sort of come to almost closing out the podcast, although I think we've got bit of time left. I'm really interested, Anish, in and you seem like you've got the finger on the pulse and you're very aware of what you need and where you're going and such. A lot of the healthcare organizations that I speak to as well, they're always aware of the bigger players, the bigger market players, and the competition that comes around trying to compete for attracting great people. And I guess peel the onion back a little bit further, and you're in technology as well within healthcare, which is very buoyant, and then you're bringing in a whole other marketplace of Meta and the likes as well. Have you yet thought about your strategy as to how you're going to be able to build a business and compete? Presumably you'd want to hire in London in a busy market, but actually not necessarily, because you're a global organization, just by mere fact that you're on the internet. We're global. Have you started thinking about those strategies of attracting the best people to your organization? What are your thoughts on that, if you have thought about it? And if not, maybe we can chat about it.
Yeah, I mean, right now we've got a very lean startup mindset. So it's very much about having a very close, small team that can make big strides. And so we haven't really thought about the large scale hiring. I think, maybe in the future when we're expanding, there's potentially things on the horizon, such as going to Abu Dhabi and or working with a couple charities, and based on an accelerator program we did with C3 Idea, we just powered by Accenture. But we're developing our vision into moving into the States and moving into Abu Dhabi and the UAE and Singapore as well over the future. And I think there's a culture of flexibility, of an innovative mindset, of a relaxed culture where people can work to the best of their ability at our startup. And I think as long as we can carry that forward in the future, then that's the best way possible. I think meeting people through connections on LinkedIn has always led to some really interesting conversations. I would just keep up that same line of thought, and just talking to new people constantly and learning about new people. There's always different conferences as well around the UK, and especially in kind of this Slush coming up soon as well. We're more focused on investors in that trip. But for the time being, I mean, I think just talking to as many people as possible, meeting as many people as possible is
Yeah, I remember my old boss said, good things happen when good people meet. Generally, something comes out of a good conversation. And I guess as well, given that you're heavily content marketing led at the minute, you're a big part of the brand as well, and people buying into you and your story as well. I hired last year a couple of very senior roles for a startup founder who was very attached as well, personal story to the brand, and it was so important that. And I got off the phone with a lot of candidates as well who said, I really buy into the founder. I really buy into the CEO who, the story ties in just perfectly, and I'm really behind that mission as well. So I think you'll be a big draw in the drive to attract the people that you need. So you talked about conferences and events, and do you have any upcoming engagements where you've got the opportunity to speak, or are you attending anywhere that people listening might be able to come by and see you?
I'm not speaking at any events coming up anytime soon, but I am going to be attending a lot of conferences across the UK in the medical space.
Great.
We have our eyes set on the NHS Innovation Accelerator, and that's definitely a goal that we've set for ourselves. So we're working with NHS Pennine Trust and the Bipolar Buddy release.
Wonderful.
In the trial, and eventually we'd like to also develop that into a relationship. So working with the NHS in the future would hopefully be something that we want to do. But definitely tons of events going on. I don't think I'm speaking at any of them anytime soon.
Right. There's time for that. Yeah, absolutely. And where is the best place for people to stay connected with Bipolar Buddy and Move Mentor as well? Is it through LinkedIn, website? Where's the best place to keep track of all the things that you're doing?
Yeah, we're mainly marketing through TikTok and Instagram, so that's where you'll see most of us.
Okay, right on.
We are also on LinkedIn for anyone else who's interested, and that's more achievements that we have happening every now and then. So that's good to check in there as well.
And how's the Instagram and TikTok engagement? I imagine pretty high, as it's very native content.
Yeah,
original.
Yeah, we're just ramping up into it right now. So I think we'll see the most of it in about 8 weeks' time. That's when our strategy fully unleashes, and we're definitely going to make some big strides there. So we definitely have some targets in place, but we need a 10% engagement rate, or we won't be able to make the impact that we want to.
Yeah, and I guess the branding as well through Instagram and TikTok as well. Is that leading people to download the app? Is that the best place to? Is that the next best objective?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great.
Most of the content will be through influencers on TikTok or on Instagram. Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh, this is really exciting, and I can't wait to see how everything unfolds for you. Anish as well. I know I'll be keeping close eye on things, and there's so many exciting things going on in the space as well. It's really, really exciting. I'll make sure that I share all the links as to where to find you and your team and updates and so on after the podcast. But it's been really, really, really insightful, and it's a bit of a watch this space, isn't it, really? So for any investors out there who are interested, I'll make sure that we can connect you across all the platforms so they can engage with you through the website. I know there's contact forms on there, isn't there, to get in touch?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a contact form on there. There's always the info at Bipolar, but that's what it goes to. I think I'm going to put the opportunity to set up meetings with me in case anyone has any questions about the app as well.
Okay, wonderful.
Our conversation, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, I think there's plenty more to talk about, and over the next few months, we'll certainly be seeing things ramp up, maybe for a part 2 down the line. But yeah, for now, Anish Suri, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. And like I say, I'll make sure this is shared across all the major platforms, and links will be out there to connect with you as well. Thanks so much again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Looking forward to speaking to you soon. Cheers, Anish.